Hey folks, it's Jordan here from VGC, here to answer all your questions about Concord. I asked on X, formerly Twitter, for your questions, and boy, did you give me some. So I've got about 73 questions here, and some of them will be repeats, but let's get through as many of them as we can. Right off the bat, Torrens asks, if you can talk about the game's monetization system, that would be awesome. As a paid game, is it going to follow free-to-play system, or is it going to have a different system of its own? I think it's a make or break kind of thing for many players about live service games. So I can talk about this. We interviewed a pair of the developers, the director of IP, and a lead character designer, and they were pretty forthright. The game will have cosmetic-only monetization options. It will not affect gameplay. All new characters, maps, vignettes, seasons are going to be free according to them, but you will be able to buy skins in your typical kind of free-to-play fare, but gameplay stuff, all free. Jay asks, no offline mode with bots, I'm assuming. So currently not. There will be a training mode, we were told, just to kind of get your feet underneath you, but this is very much a focused multiplayer online experience according to them, so no offline mode apart from that training mode as far as we are aware. That's what they told us, at least. Smitty the Gamer's Grill asks, what feels most important, good gun skills or use of abilities? So your mileage may vary. There's one character, Tio, who I played as quite a lot. You're probably seeing my Tio footage below because per the embargo we were allowed to use 10 minutes of our personal capture, even though we played for like 3 hours. So Tio is very much your Soldier 76. He's your bread and butter kind of first person shooter character. Whereas there's other characters like One Off, who's the big kind of dustbin, much more ability based. Rocka, I believe, is the one with the rocket where she can jump up in the air, like slam down on people or shoot a rocket launcher, that kind of thing. So it's asymmetrical in the sense that some characters are really skill based and some of them are really kind of firearm based, but I think it's a pretty good balance from what we've played. I took off my headphones because it's too early for me to be bothering with that shite. Okay, next question. King J asks, does it feel like you need to be in a squad or hugging teammates at all times to be enjoyable? Are there moments where the lone wolf can do some damage? Apologies, it was me not being able to speak English there, not your question. So the 3 modes we played, one of them was called Trophy Hunt, which was like kill confirmed. In that you can be pretty lone wolf as long as everyone is picking up the trophies, which, as anyone who's played a kill confirmed mode will know, is a rarity. But in the other 2, Cargo Run and there was another, can't remember the name of the other mode, but it was, one of them was basically sit on a point and win the point, like hard point in Call of Duty essentially, but that had no respawns. So in our session it basically just became a game of deathmatch with no respawn. People didn't really play the objective because obviously if you kill the whole other team you win anyway. Cargo Run was kind of similar, where if you kill the whole other team you win, and in that mode it was like, okay, if we are rolling as a 5, even if the other team is rolling as a 4, we're going to win just purely based on like the numbers game. Also, the game doesn't really have classes per se, but there are characters that would fit in like a tank, a healer kind of class system, but there's no class limitations like something like Overwatch, so you can have this really bulky team, and if you come up against a team that's really kind of squishy, to use the term, you're just going to win. So yeah, there is a bit of that squad, at least in the modes we played, there is a bit of that kind of feels necessary to be in a squad. Not massively so, but somewhat. The Hard Truth asks, is there any other games that it feels like to play? Also, does it feel balanced and fun, or just another run-of-the-mill hero shooter? Games that it feels like to play, it feels like Destiny. It's probably Destiny shooting with like maybe if you doubled the Call of Duty time to kill, something like that. That's kind of the area that you're operating in. Does it feel balanced? It really actually did feel very balanced when we played it, especially for an asymmetrical game. Obviously, we're playing in an environment where there's literally 10 players and all of us were playing it for the first time, so things like balance won't really emerge until the full game is out, but it seemed like it. It certainly doesn't feel run-of-the-mill. There are a lot of hero shooters, and I've played a lot of them recently. Like I played Marvel Rivals at SGF. I'm an Overwatch veteran, best Zarya in Europe. But yeah, I wouldn't say run of the mill. I think that's too harsh. Poketo asks, how much aim assist is there when playing on controller? Can you disable crossplay? How are the competitive mode balance regarding these aspects? That's the 3 questions, so you're banned. How much aim assist when playing with a controller? Look, I didn't feel tons, however, I play all shooters with a controller, so I'm perhaps not the best judge of this. It felt like you had to be pretty precise. There wasn't that really kind of snap that you get in a lot of shooters where if you're just above the head, it'll slightly ease you down. It felt like you had to actually be hitting it. But obviously this is a dev build, so things might change. Can you disable crossplay? You can disable crossplay. How are the competitive modes balanced? They're not, because there are no competitive modes at launch. Yes, this might come as a disappointment to some, but the team are trying to get this out as a foundation. They're saying that this is like foundational. They're just trying to get it out and start building on it. So when asked about ranked and competitive modes, that was basically the response, that maybe eventually, and you assume it's a hero shooter, so this will happen, but at launch, nothing like that. Mr. X asks, is there anything that differentiates it from other hero shooters? So I would say the main thing that differentiates it is the way that they're putting out their story content. So in Concord, the game will have vignettes, which are like weekly kind of story episodes that will come out and tell you more about the characters and the world, and if there's like an overarching season plot, that'll be doled out in vignettes as far as I'm aware. They seem to commit to doing one every week, which I suppose if you commission 30 minutes of animation and chop them up into 2-minute sections, that's like 15 weeks, but still that feels like a hell of a lot of work. It will be very impressive if they pull it off, but yeah, that's the main thing. There's also the Galactic Guide, which is like this big kind of expanded universe menu where you can go in, look at all these planets, look at their history, learn more about the lore of the world. It's one for the nerds, essentially. Gage Luke asks, do you think the studio's pledge to put out weekly cutscenes is overly ambitious? Will these be fully telling a story, or will they feel like half-baked Overwatch shorts? Interested in your thoughts. As I was just saying, I presume you don't mean that the Overwatch shorts were half-baked, because I don't think they were. I think they were great, but the one we saw was pretty cool. It did have the tone of the trailer, which people won't be thrilled about, but it is very ambitious. I hope they pull it off. I really don't want to see that first kind of social media post where they're like, oh, sorry, there's no vignette this week because we broke the balancing on one-off or whatever. But there's 150 people working on the game. It's backed by PlayStation, so it seems like they have the runway to get those things in the can, so to speak. Is there going to be enough story to maintain giving out 2 minutes every week for years? Who knows? They have 16 characters at launch, so you've got a lot of people to kind of explore in their interpersonal relationships, and obviously in this world of kind of changing seasonal storytelling and things like Fortnite and Warzone, though that can take up a lot of the time. So yeah, that's the biggest unknown coming out of this, is can they keep that consistent? I bet the first 6 months of it is fine, but what happens when that bank of vignettes that they've already made runs out? Drex47 asks, how different do the heroes feel and what customization was available, if any? The heroes did feel pretty different, obviously because the weapons and stuff are tied to the heroes. Your basic gunplay is like different off the bat, and beyond that there's different movement speeds, different abilities. So yeah, there was a pretty big differentiation between the heroes that we played. To be clear, we played 10 of them. There's 16 in the beta and at launch. What customization is available? There's costumes, things like that. As we mentioned earlier, you can pay for some of the costumes. Some of the costume pieces are unlocked in-game, typical kind of live service stuff like that. Xavier Millie, how's the graphics? I think it looks really nice. Runs great, looks very colourful. The characters are easy to differentiate on the battlefield. The maps are well designed. They don't feel like you're getting lost. There's good lines of sight, at least the 3 maps that we played on. So yeah, I think it looks pretty good. Tovich says, question, does it have gyroscope support? I don't actually know. That's a good question. I will reach out about that. I would, The problem is if it had gyroscope support, it would have to have that on PC as well, which I suppose would be fine, but yeah, I don't know. I will find out, or at least I'll ask. Who knows if I'll find out. Ty Single says, how does the time to kill feel? Is the game fun to play? And can you play different types of the same character? Meaning, is it possible to face 2 different Lennox players? Or does every Lennox have a base kit with no customizable traits? Time to kill about double Call of Duty, I would say. That's kind of where we're operating. Is the game fun to play? I think so. Can you play different types of the same character? So, if you mean, can there be... Obviously, you can't have 2 Lennox in the same team, but do you mean can each player have, like, in separate games, have different variants of Lennox? Kind of. They have a mechanic, I can't quite remember the name of, where they will roll out variants, I think it's called variants of players, where this Lennox will have extra grenades or will be faster. I don't quite understand if that will work in the sense of like you can pick the normal Lennox or the variant. But they are doing things to keep characters kind of fresh and doing like interesting buffs and changes like that. But in terms of like customizing your base character, it seems mostly cosmetic, kind of in the same way that Overwatch is, where every time you play Reaper, it's going to be Reaper. You can't change his abilities or anything. If I'm skipping any questions, by the way, it's because they are exactly what has been asked before and don't add anything else, so I apologize. Lurian, hello Lurian, you're always asking, did you see any offline modes, training tutorial modes, practice arenas, also private matchmaking and menus? Cheers. No, we didn't see any offline training tutorial or practice arenas. There will be a practice mode, as I mentioned earlier. Private matchmaking, they were asked about it in a group Q&A, and similar to ranked, maybe something to come in the future, but no plans at launch for that. I think is maybe a mistake. Obviously you can like group up and search just with your pals, but if you're like a streamer, for example, and you want to do like get 10 people in for a game where it's only you and your pals on both sides, you can't do that at launch, which seems like a mistake on my part, but what do I know? Maybe there's just not that many people that actually engage with stuff like that, which would make sense. Fegio asks, is there any type of progression, like a competitive mode with ranks? There is like individual character level, you're getting XP, but there is no competitive mode with ranks at launch. El Pickle asks, how's the progression in Halo Infinite? I could get 30 kills and 0 deaths, congratulations, but receive a set amount of XP. Does doing the objective or kills or other things get you extra XP? I believe that is the case, yeah. You're also getting tons of XP from like weekly and daily challenges. Like even when we were playing, we were getting like, oh, you traveled X amount with this character, you got X amount of kills with this, and you got big chunks of XP for that. So it doesn't, I know what you mean in terms of like, you play a Halo game and regardless if you do brilliantly or terribly, you're always getting 500 XP. That doesn't seem like the case, which is great because I hate that in games as well. Gamer Up asks how gameplay feels like, how quick to find a match, any info on the roadmap. Gameplay cool. How quick to find a match? We played it in a preview setting, so I have no indication of that whatsoever. Any info on the roadmap? Nothing beyond that they have a lot planned. Obviously they're keeping up this weekly cadence of vignettes, so they're going to have a lot planned. They have seasons and characters and new maps, so nothing specific about the roadmap, but they're committing to a lot of post-release support, which is a good thing. Kyler asks a lot of stuff, but let's pick out the specifics. Respawn times 4 or 5 seconds, enough that you can go back to the screen and change your character, but there were a few times where I just wanted to get back in and I was thrown to like spectating another player, which wasn't the most fun because I wasn't playing. And comparisons to other popular shooters, Destiny is the big one. I would say, yeah. See, people think it was Overwatch, but it's actually PlayStation's Destiny, which is ironic because PlayStation's Destiny is Destiny. And if you got to see any of the weekly story videos that Concord introduces, we saw what I believe is the first one. I enjoyed it. Guardians of the Galaxy style dialogue works way better in 2-minute bursts than it does in 8-minute bursts, I will say. L one-off Imari Starchild, who is clearly a big Concord stan already. Does the game allow you to have custom crosshairs, or does it have a selection of pre-mades? Another good question that I don't know the answer to. I will reach out about that and see if I can find out. Good question. 61 Degrees says, are there options to disable the zoom out when doing rolls and other abilities? It's putting me off a little. That is a great question, because if you've seen in the footage, it might have happened in the footage that I'm showing just now, Once you do the roll, which is like double tap on circle, you zoom out to third person and then do the roll, which can be kind of disorienting, to be fair. But I don't know if that's something that you can actually disable. It's worth that's worth checking, because I suppose if you could disable it, how would that look in first person? Would that just look absolutely mental or what? Interesting. I've got a good few questions here to send them, so I'll add that to the list. Unhackable, how many characters are there and does it feel broken or balanced? 16 at launch. Well balanced to us, but we had 10 players playing for the first time, so who knows? Pushing forward, saw a rumour that the gunplay is better than Destiny and COD. Is that true? No gunplay has ever been better than Call of Duty. Let's just set that out. Obviously, your mileage will vary between what Call of Duty you're referring to, but Call of Duty is the gold standard. It is close to Destiny. It feels like it was made by a bunch of people who used to work on Destiny, which it was. So, yeah. It's an interesting rumour. Rock Math asks, yeah, I have a question. Xbox when? I see no reason why they wouldn't put this on Xbox. This seems exactly like the type of game that PlayStation would be willing to put on Xbox, especially because it gets more of a player base, gets more sales. It's not one of their big tentpole releases. I mean, is it worth it for them to put it on Xbox? Who knows? This isn't MLB The Show, but yeah, I could see them putting it on Xbox. Why not? Mewin asks, is there a training mode, firing range to test out hero abilities / guns? Unsure about that. There is a training mode, but I don't know about like a firing range. Are all the game modes all available at the same time? Is there a rotation? I believe they're all available at the same time. Is there map vote before the game starts, or is it random? We were just put into maps, so I don't know about that. Are the weekly cinematics baked into a menu to be watched later? Yes. Zolington says, if you're able to see some of the story cutscenes, were they similar style and writing to the one shown at State of Play? Yeah, kinda. Takashi Chan says, beta when? I believe it kicks off on the 18th of July. That might be the early access date. Is it the 18th of July? It's something like that. By the time this video comes out, you will know, because the news will be on VGC. Vocor says, first priority for me and my group of FPS buddies, ranked play system, tournament focus. Well, Concord might not be for you. Pure Dead Gaming, hello, says, has Marvel called and do they want their Guardians of the Galaxy game back? All that stuff doesn't really translate to the actual gameplay. Like, if they're not quipping their heads off, you're not going to notice it. And you can just avoid the cutscenes if you don't want to watch them. But yeah, I do get your point. Ledova asks, is there a replay system when you die and after you finish your game? When you die, you just watch another player, and after you finish your game, I'm not actually sure. Ranked customs, no. Are you able to swap between characters mid-game? Yes. How variants work for each character? As explained earlier, it seems like it just changes abilities and maybe stats, but there's going to be a variant in the beta, so we'll be able to see how that kind of manifests. How ammo works, it's just unlimited ammo as far as I'm aware. Game Killer asks, if you played on PS5, does it have 120 FPS mode? I don't actually... We did play on PS5, but I don't actually know. We played on PS5 dev kits and we were capturing gameplay, so they set it to 60 because people can't really capture 120 reliably. I would expect it to have a 120 mode or eventually get one. I would like a 120 mode because I have a TV that can display it and I am a nerd, so that would be nice. ML Gecko, are you able to discuss the jawlines of the female characters and how that affected your enjoyment? Yes, I actually spent 2.5 of the 3 hours expecting the jawlines, and they're soft enough to the point where I didn't want to punch the absolute shite out of the television, so don't worry about that. Xbox Stand 23, can I choose not to see any transgenderism in the game? Is there a toggle? Oh, I actually have an official statement on this. It's grow up, you absolute gimp. E-Man asks, how long do matches last? About 10 minutes for trophy hunt, and the round-based ones are obviously as quick as you want if your team is terrible. JVZ, are the spaceships in any way part of the gameplay? Not the the actual like shooting gameplay. No, they're just kind of set dressing stuff. Grego Soar with about 50 million questions. A, would there be a campaign? No. B, are there plans for more female robots and aliens? I'm sure there will be, but I don't know. Will Discord members get exclusive content? I have no idea, but for a question like that, I hope not. And finally, this was asked by about 50 million different people. Why isn't it free? Now, look, the game does have trappings of a free-to-play title, and to be fair, I also originally thought that it was probably free. It's not. It's the same price as Helldivers, which is what, £35 or $40. This will be a sticking point for some people. However, I can kind of understand their argument. If all the content's always going to be free apart from cosmetics, would you rather just have a free-to-play game where you're paying for characters and battle passes and maps and all that stuff, or would you rather just pay the £35, get it all, and hope that you keep playing it? Because obviously that's the kind of push and pull. With a free-to-play title, you can just download it, try it, and if you don't like it, you can bin it off, and there's kind of no problem. But yeah, I don't think that every game in this space has to be free-to-play, but there is a player expectation, especially when things like Marvel Rivals, and obviously not quite the same game, but Warzone, like a lot of huge free-to-play titles about there now. And with all these live service games, people's time has kind of never been more precious, so getting people to make that commitment to £35 is kind of a lot. I think it should probably be a PS Plus game the month it launches, just to get people in the door. Obviously that doesn't help Steam players, but PC gamers, am I right? So yeah, I understand that kind of sentiment, but I can also understand why they think they have a package that is worth paying the money for. I'm just glad it's not 70 quid like Destruction All Stars or something like that, because then it would be destined for an early bath. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out and how, when players that actually buy it, how they feel about having spent that money. Because we can't really know until the kind of economics of that play out. People will get a taste of it in the beta, but it'll be 23rd of August or something like that when the game actually launches, to see what it's like as a package. Because obviously it worked brilliantly for Helldivers, but that might be like a once a generation type of success. I'm not saying this is going to be as good or kind of as successful, but you know what I mean, that kind of mid-price title, especially from like a PlayStation backed studio. It'll be interesting to see. Anyway, thank you very much for your questions. I appreciate them. I hope I answered all of them sufficiently, apart from the ones that I don't know the answer to, which I'll email Sony and ask them, and they'll probably say, piss off, you bald old man. But until next time, subscribe to VGC. Be sure to check out VGC, the video game podcast. We have a video interview with Firewalk on this channel, and we have 10 minutes of exclusive gameplay with me talking over it. Yeah, go and check that out. Till then, I'm Jordan Midler. See you later.